of the Planning Committee on the 14th of September 2023. I'm Caleb Tomlinson. I'm the councillor for Bamber Bridge West Ward, and I'm also the chair of this committee. Committee members and members of the public are reminded that this meeting is being streamed live to YouTube. If you're attending the meeting because you're a member of the public who has registered to speak, you've got 4 minutes. I'll invite you to come to the table and press your red button and make your representations. Okay. Voting will be undertaken by the electronic system, and the outcome of the vote will then be confirmed by our legal representative, Taz. I'll begin with some housekeeping. If you have mobile phones, which I'm sure we all have, can you put them onto silent, please, or switch them off, whichever you want to do. We're not anticipating. I always struggle with that word. We're not anticipating a fire drill this evening, but if the fire alarm does go off, there will be a fire somewhere in the building, and the fire exits are behind you, and we all meet on West Paddock. Okay, if we can now introduce each other, I will start with the young lady on my left.
Good evening. My name's Tasneem Safdar, and I'm the Legal Services Team Leader.
Ruth Remington, Democratic Services.
Hello, Kath Unsworth, councillor for Broadfield.
Matthew Farnworth, councillor for Seven Stars.
Good evening, Phil Smith. I'm councillor for New Longton and Hutton East.
Good evening. I'm David Shaw, councillor for Howick and Priory in Penwortham.
Good evening, councillor Mary Green, councillor for Moss Side and Midge Hall.
Good evening, I'm Will Adams and I'm councillor for Middlefirth in Penwortham.
Good evening, councillor Peter Molyneux, Samlesbury and Walton Ward.
Good evening, I'm Wesley Roberts, councillor for Buckshire and Worden, and substituting tonight for councillor Hayden Williams.
Good evening, I'm Elaine Stringfellow, councillor for Lostock Hall and vice chair.
Good evening, I'm Janice Crook, planning officer.
Good evening, I'm Catherine Thomas, the Planning Manager.
Good evening, Elizabeth Hindle, Head of Planning and Enforcement.
Okay, thanks for that, everybody. Apologies have been covered by Councillor Roberts, so we do not need to do that. Do we have any declarations of interest this evening? No, okay. Item 4 on the agenda this evening, the minutes of the meeting held on the 3rd of August 2023. I have read and agree with them. Can I have a seconder? Second. Okay, thanks, Councillor Stringfellow. Can we go to the vote, please?
Thank you, Chair. So those minutes of the 3rd of August are approved.
Okay, thanks for that, Taz. Appeal decisions. Kath, please.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, we've received one appeal decision this month, and that's in relation to the agricultural barns on the west side of Newgate Lane in Whitestake, Preston. The application was heard at Planning Committee on the 9th of February, and planning permission was refused. The issues were largely in terms of impact on residential amenity, highway safety and the green belt, and the inspector has concluded that the appeal should be allowed, so planning permission has been granted subject to a number of conditions. Thank you, Chair.
All right, Catherine, thanks for that. Moving swiftly along now, item 6. Just one moment. Councillor Smith, is this on the appeal?
It's on the appeals, Chair. Yeah. You're quite right in what you're saying. If you could send me a copy of that, I would like it. But having talked to residents down there, inspector imposed a lot of conditions on that and did exactly what we were asking for in the first place. So I think residents are relatively happy with that, because it wasn't just that he allowed it, he did, but the conditions on it are significant. So, and I think that's an important point going forward. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Smith, she'll send you the copy of that. Okay. Moving along to item number 6, because we've got a lot on the agenda tonight. It's really packed and we need to get a move on. Item number 6, Cedars Farm, Drumacre Lane East, Longton, Preston. Janice.
So this application relates to part of the Cedars Farm site located between Drumacre Lane East to the north and Gill Lane to the south. The site has a number of former chicken sheds used to produce eggs for the pharmaceutical industry, but unfortunately, due to avian flu, the site had to close and the buildings cannot be re-entered until October. So the site is within the green belt and it's considered as a previously developed site. This aerial photo just shows the site in the context of the adjacent land uses. So there's some residential properties along Gill Lane. And then there's some further ones on Drumacre Lane East and a number of glass houses just like to the east of the site. So this is the site here. So the site consists of a number of buildings associated with Cedars Farm, with just 5 of those buildings subject to this application for a change of use. So it's a change of use to use class EG, which are uses that can be carried out, commercial uses that can be carried out in a residential area without detriment to its amenity. So use class B2, which is general industrial uses, and use class B8, which are storage and distribution uses. The proposal also includes the formation of a car park to the north, you see here. And then there's an increase in the hard standing between buildings 1 and 2 here, and the formation of a additional hard standing here to use for access to the loading bays. So access to the site is off Gill Lane. The existing site access roads will be widened to include a passing place. There will be no access to the site from Drumacre Lane East. So these images just show the eastern elevation of the building. So the top one is the existing, and the bottom one is the proposed. So it just shows the insertion of loading bay doors. This image shows buildings 1 and 2, which will also have new loading bay doors inserted, and the hard standing, as I mentioned before, between will be extended to provide access. So in terms of landscaping, so there'll be a new landscaping mound here to the north, which will be at right angles to an existing mound. Existing trees will be retained but cut back just at the site access. And then a new bund will be formed just here to the north of the main loading bay hard standing. So as no details have been submitted, condition 13 is proposed, requiring the submission of landscaping scheme and provide details of the mounds. So this slide just shows the site access from Gill Lane, and the buildings subject to this application are largely screened from view and some way from the site access. And then in terms of residential amenity, the proposal does have the potential to create some noise and disturbance to neighbouring properties. So a noise impact assessment was submitted, and that was considered by our environmental health officers. They consider that a condition should be imposed to restrict the hours of use to between 8 a.m. and 6 p.m. Monday to Friday, and 8 till 1 on Saturdays, with no use on Sunday and bank holidays. And that also that the recommendations in paragraph 7.1.1 of the noise impact assessment must be implemented prior to first use of the building. So these and other requested conditions have been included in the application, and it's recommended for approval subject to these conditions. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thanks for your detailed report, Janice. All right, we don't have any members of the public wishing to speak against this application. We don't have any members of the public in favour of the application. We don't have the ward members. We don't have the applicant. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to open it up to committee. Councillor Adams.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Janice, for your comprehensive report. I don't foresee any issues within the report, or certainly the issues that there could be. I think seem to be mitigated against by the conditions which have been set out. So, in my mind, I find that fairly straightforward in terms of proposing approval for that. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Adams. Councillor Phil Smith.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. I'm quite happy with the report. And Janice, with regard to you said that no vehicles would be allowed from Drumacre Lane East. The condition just says commercial vehicles. Can we amend that to say no vehicles, not just commercial vehicles? It's important. Drumacre Lane East is a single little lane, and it's important that we exclude all vehicles rather than just commercial vehicles.
That might be a bit more difficult because there's still some buildings associated with the farm. So it's still a farm, and obviously, there's still access required to that part of the site.
It might be difficult, but I still like it. I mean, we're talking about creating a car park for 84 cars. That means 84 cars could be coming in and out of that entrance on a daily basis, I suppose.
So the vehicles that access the Cedars Farm Park won't be able to access that because there's a gate and a bund that I showed you on the slide. So they're preventing from accessing that part of the site. But, I can't comment on the requirements for the remaining part of the farm that will still be in operation, what vehicles they need.
Right. It's not very clear, that, Janice. I'm not quite sure how that can be controlled then, as it's actually creating a car park for 84 cars. Presumably that's to extend the business premises, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But Drumacre Lane East is a little narrow lane, and certainly I wouldn't have thought suitable for that many cars going up and down it. And I say, you did say in your presentation that no vehicles would be allowed. Now, cars are vehicles. That's all.
Janice, Drumacre Lane East is the entrance to the farm, yeah? Yeah. So if the farmer wants to take a tractor down Drumacre Lane East, we can't put a condition on it to stop him, can we?
No, because that would be preventing the use of, the farm. But we could think of something for the actual car park for the vehicles associated with the actual new units without restricting the actual farmer and his business.
Okay, I'm sort of relatively happy with that. This puts the applicant in charge of controlling the traffic, basically. I think it does indicate that within the report itself, but not to be too pedantic about it, but he's got the keys to the gate, hasn't he? And he's in control of it. So on that basis, I'm sort of relatively happy and would second the proposal, Chair.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Smith. Right, so I've had a proposal for approval, a seconder for approval. Do I have any other proposals? Okay, if we can go to the electronic vote, this is for approval with conditions for Cedars Farm, Drumacre Lane East.
Thank you, Chair. So committee have decided to grant permission with conditions for the change of the use of the former chicken farm buildings to EG class B8 and B2 use, including external alterations and creation of car park and vehicle turning areas in respect of Cedars Farm, Drumacre Lane East. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thanks for that, Taz. All right, let's move on then to item number 7, Danesway 52 Hall Lane, Longton. And Janice, if you would like to present this item, please.
Yeah, sorry, I'll just get in the presentation up to the right place.
Not going too fast for you.
Oh, the computer's going too slow for me. Right, so this application relates to land associated with Danesway at 52 Hall Lane in Longton. The site consists of a residential curtilage which has a number of outbuildings, garage, workshop, stables, games room and areas of hard standing, all which were used as ancillary buildings to the residential dwelling. Neighbouring properties lie to the east and west along Hall Lane, together with a small residential development at Oak Gardens. So the site is within the green belt, but is classed as previously developed land. Right, so the Parent Reserve Matters application 07-2022 00692 REM was for details of access, appearance, landscaping, layout and scale for the erection of 2 dwelling houses following outline approval. And it came before Planning Committee at its 8th of December 2022 meeting, but was deferred to allow for changes to the style and design of the dwelling to be made. So this slide just shows the originally proposed scheme. And this shows the amended scheme, which was approved by committee in April. The amended scheme addressed concerns with the originally submitted scheme. So it introduced a pitched roof replacing the previously proposed flat roof and a brick and tile finish replacing the previously proposed render finish. It also removed the rear bedroom windows, and condition 2 of that approval listed the approved plans by reference number. So this current application seeks a variation of condition 2 to amend the external elevations to relocate the bedroom windows back into the rear elevation. So the windows face towards the rear of residential properties, Shoredine and Sylvain. The separation distances are in excess of the normally required 21 metres between facing windows, which is set out in the Residential Extensions SPD. So this slide just shows the distances, and the proposal achieves a good spatial separation distance, which complies with policy G17 and the supplementary planning document in terms of overlooking and loss of privacy. So I've just put on the slide the actual separation distances. So it's 36.5 metres between the windows of the new Lot 1 and Shoredine, and 27.7 to Sylvain. So additionally, in terms of landscaping, the planting scheme proposed heavy standard trees with a girth of 14 to 16 centimetres, which will be about 3 metres high, to the southern boundary with the neighbouring properties to provide additional screening. The application to vary condition 2 is therefore recommended for approval. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thanks for another detailed report, Janice. I'll just remind members that this isn't a full planning application. It's already been granted. It's just to amend the conditions. We do have a member of the public who wishes to speak against the application, a Julie Kemp. If you'd like to come forward. So, I thought you were pointing at me when you said that noise then, Councillor Smith. Okay, Julie, if you'd like to press your red button, introduce yourself, and when you've done that, you'll have 4 minutes to make your objections. Okay. You're welcome.
Yeah, so I'm Julie Kemp. I'm here to oppose the variation of the application on behalf of myself and my husband and Rob Brosier of Shoredine and Sylvian. DPOL, the agent for the applicant, attended by video link in December 2022 at South Ribble Committee planning meeting, where we heard Councillor Mary Green object to the application due to the dwellings overlooking and overshadowing our properties. We are a bungalow. Councillor Caroline Moon felt that she was to object on the grounds of the applicant and agent not having, and I quote, a common sense approach, but wanted to hear the opinion of other committee members. It was Councillor Will Adam who made a suggestion that the applicant, agent, neighbours and local councillors met. We and neighbours met with the applicant's agent, DPOL, in January 2023. This meeting was recorded, typescript sent to the agent for amendments and comments. None were received, then shared with the South Ribble case officer. The DPOL agent said in this meeting that he understands that the application could have been rejected due to the issues that we raised. New drawings were submitted and presented in person by DPOL agent in the April 2023 South Ribble planning meeting. He sat in this room in front of this committee to share the revised plan. The first that we as neighbours knew of this revised plans was via the planning portal. The revised drawings showed a change to the south-facing upper windows, reallocating these to the east and west of the dwellings. All changes made were accepted by us as neighbours and this committee and approved. The permitted approval letter was received on the 16th of May 2023 with the following condition in place, particularly in relation to the south-facing upper windows and roof terrace, with the applicant and agent agreeing to relocate these in April South Ribble planning meeting due to the windows and roof terrace compromising and encroaching the privacy of dwellings and gardens of residents' dwellings by overlooking and overshadowing. We question why 6 weeks later from that April's planning meeting, when the agent presented these changes on behalf of their applicants, the unpermitted approval letter issued with conditions as a new variation being submitted. The floor plan still contains 4 bedrooms, 2 en-suites and a family bathroom. The approved plans with upper windows to the east and west overlook green and brown belt, countryside and wildlife, bathing in natural sunlight. This new variation overlooks our bungalow and our full height Juliet windows with balconies which could be opened. Variation of condition 2 states the development hereby permitted shall be carried out in accordance with the submitted approved plans and drawings. And the reason for this was for the avoidance of doubt and to ensure a satisfactory standard of development. Our concerns is that this applicant and agent have now applied to revert back to the original south-facing upper window drawings, which may have been objected in April 2023 planning meeting. We have concerns that adding south-facing upper windows continues to encroach our privacy, causing overshadowing and overlooking to our bungalow property. The applicants in particular continues to show no consideration to neighbours, and in our opinion, the agent and applicant are making a mockery of this whole planning committee process and playing with the process, wasting our and this committee's time. And a further concern is that more changes and alterations to revert back to the August 23 application will follow. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thanks for your representation, Julie. Thank you. We don't have any supporters for this application. And we did have the ward member, Councillor Colin Coulton, wishing to speak against it, but he's in A&E, so my thoughts, and I'm sure all the committee's thoughts are with him for good health. The agent hasn't said one way or another whether he's going to speak or whether he's going to turn up, but he isn't here. So I'm just quickly to say, a Juliet window is not a balcony. It is a Juliet window. So over to you, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to open up to committee. Councillor Mary Green.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I've got serious concerns that a thing has been agreed on one meeting. You know, they've gone away, they've consulted with the residents, they've come to a happy sort of agreement. And then now it's been renegated again back to what it was. So obviously the residents aren't happy, and I can see why. And why should they be? If he's made an agreement one way to their satisfaction, why negate on it? So, you know, I don't think it's right. I'm not totally happy with that.
Councillor Will Adams.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for coming and speaking to us. It's always helpful. I think in terms of making a decision on things like this, and I totally appreciate your frustration. I think us as a committee don't like to see applications keep coming back and variations being made. So I really do get your frustration. I think I'd like to see from a legal point of view, I presume that we're policy compliant on this in terms of, in my mind, I don't like it. I don't like the variations, but I'm also pragmatic in terms of what do we do tonight in terms of this decision we make in terms of if we are to refuse the application based on the comments set out by the resident there. That my concern would be that I don't think it would hold up in a court of law, and that's what I think we need to be aware of. But on the same side, I really do appreciate the concerns raised by the residents. So if I could get some clarity on that.
Just responding on that point that you've just made, Councillor Adams, there are no rules which negate an applicant to make an application for variation or condition once it's been approved. Now, in terms of your point around the reasons, in terms of this one, my understanding is that the officer recommendation is that it's approval with conditions, or approval with conditions. Now, in this scenario, it's policy compliant, and if you were to refuse, it would have to be against sort of policy G17. And from what I can see from the report, that doesn't seem to be the case. So it could be a difficult case to defend.
Okay, thanks, Taz. Councillor Phil Smith.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I also don't really care for this particular application, I have to say. If it's policy compliant now, and what we've got is the same application that came to us before that was policy compliant that we didn't like. And we didn't like because of what the resident has said. That overshadowing and overlooking for a Juliet balcony onto what is a bungalow to be quite honest, overshadowing overlooking is enough to refuse the application, whether it's policy compliant on distances or not. Overshadowing and overlooking is a good enough reason to reject this application. And I'd be quite happy to propose that we don't accept this application, that we refuse it, Chair, on overshadowing and overlooking, where that comes to in the conditions. But I'd be quite happy to propose that. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Smith. As I've just said, there's no such thing as a Juliet balcony. There's a Juliet window and there's a balcony. They're two completely different things. Did you want to come in? Janice, was it you? No. Oh, Catherine, would you like to come in before I bring in Councillor Green?
Thank you, Chair. So I'd just like to come back to some of the comments that have been made. And firstly, in response to Councillor Smith, yes, it is important that we look at the previous application and why committee felt that it was unsuitable. And my understanding is that members felt that it was unsuitable on design grounds at that time. So the repositioning of the windows wasn't the only factor that was being considered. There were issues in terms of the actual design of the properties, wanting a brick, more traditional appearance, which obviously the applicant did succeed in altering the design in accordance with members' concerns. If members are seeking to refuse planning permission, we obviously have to have a ground that will be defendable at the planning appeal stage. And when the planning inspector looks at the council's decision, he will look at the council's planning policy guidance and the standards in it. And in this particular case, I understand that members have referred to both overlooking and overshadowing. It'd be very difficult to make a case for overshadowing in this particular set of circumstances due to the sun's path and the location of the properties to the north of the bungalows. So I don't feel that we would be able to substantiate that successfully. I also have concerns about our ability to substantiate a case for overlooking, given that the application does comply clearly with the council's standards and separation distances that I'm sure this committee have applied to numerous other schemes, and it is a benchmark that the authority has been using for a number of years successfully. So I feel that were we to refuse this application, it will be very difficult for us to defend that decision at appeal. I just wanted members to be aware of that position. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, thanks for that, Catherine. Councillor Smith, did you want to go? I'll bring in.
Yes, Chair, please. I appreciate the points that you're making, and I understand the points that you're making. But there was a reason it was turned down in the first place, and I suppose those reasons still exist, because what we've got is an amendment to the application. Now, it's already been said that it is the same as the application. And is it the same application as the previous one? I think we haven't got the detail of it in here, but I'm assuming it's been said that it's the same application. So is it the same application?
Are you talking about the one from October?
The one from October, yeah.
No, it's not the same as that. It's the same as the last one that came to us that we approved, and now they're coming back with a variation for Juliet windows.
It's a bit more than that, Chair, from looking at the drawings and things.
Janice, Catherine, were you wanting to?
Thank you, Councillor Smith. Yes, Janice is just going. So that was the scheme that members originally considered and felt that they were uncomfortable with. Uncomfortable for a variety of reasons, including the very modern design. And they wanted something more traditional in terms of a brick-built form, perhaps with pitch roofs. So that is what this committee were looking at in terms of the form. So there was compromise from the agent in terms of the overall design of the buildings. So it isn't simply that the item was refused simply on windows distances. I just wanted the committee to be aware of that. Deferred. Sorry. Thank you, Chair.
Julie, you've had 4 minutes. Okay. All right. So, Councillor Smith, were you proposing refusal?
I was proposing refusal, Chair, yes, and I don't see any reason to change it, and I'm sure we can come up with some reasons if we really want to go down that route, and I'm quite prepared to sit and listen to what other members have to say and how they feel about it. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Mrs Green.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Thanks for letting me come back. I just feel in general that the residents have had a poor deal about this because, you know, they had the original thing, then an alteration came back on the style. But I think it was the actual loss of privacy that was most concerning to the residents originally. And I can't see now with him negating and go back again with those windows, Juliet windows, balconies, whatever they are, is the fact there's not just shadowing, because I take your point that it's a good distance away, so the shadowing probably won't affect it. But you've got loss of amenity, which is a good planning reason, loss of amenity and overlooking, because those poor people, if they're in the back garden, whether it's 2 inches away, 2 feet away, or 20 feet away, there's still no privacy, it's still going to be overlooked. And obviously, if you've got a window that's, well, whether it's a balcony or whether it's just a window with railings in front, I don't know if they call that a Juliet balcony, but it's something that somebody can stand at and look out. And you would, if it's your window or a balcony, whatever, you would stand and look out. That's the idea of them. But that's not helping the residents who are in the back of their property. So to me, it's loss of amenity, loss of privacy and overlooking. And I'd like to second Councillor Smith on refusal, please.
Okay, thanks for that, Councillor Green. So I've had proposal for refusal from Councillor Smith, seconded by Councillor Mrs Green. Councillor Will Adams.
Thank you, Chair. If this was to be refused tonight by the committee, and obviously the applicant then appealed on that basis and was successful with that appeal, shall we say, am I right in thinking that the conditions set out in the report would be lost?
Yeah, sorry. The application is only for that one condition to be removed, and so I would imagine that the remainder would actually stand.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with everything Councillor Green said, and I fully appreciate the nature of this application and the impact that it's going to have. For us, we're only as powerful as our rules and regulations that are set out in the policy, and I just cannot see any planning inspector looking at this in terms of an appeal that would go any other way in terms of supporting the applicant, and that is my concern in terms of the cost to the council and the residents who pay taxes in South Ribble, and that's where I would love to support the residents here in terms of supporting refusal, but I just can't see this succeeding after an appeal is lodged by the applicant, and again, I don't want to do that, but I think on that basis, I'm going to have to propose approval, Chair, unfortunately.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Adams. Councillor Farnworth.
I just want to thank Julie and the residents for explaining your concerns. We can all see your frustrations, and we recognise the concerns that you've raised. And I also don't think it's good that the developers has gone back, on the word, so to speak. But like Councillor Adams has said, I don't think we've got anywhere to go with it as a planning committee. And if it is compliant, which we've heard what the officers have said and read the report, then I really don't think there's much we can do with it. So I'd like to second Councillor Adams' proposal begrudgingly.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Farnworth. Councillor Molyneux.
Thank you, Chair. I I think I'm, like all the committee this evening, very uncomfortable with this situation. I don't think it's fair at all to go one way and then change it and be sort of left out, well, we can't do anything about it. You know, that doesn't help the residents in this case. For me, and I know that Councillor Adams is talking about the situation if we take it forward and he doesn't think this and he doesn't think that. But from my point of view, I think it's almost like we're accepting something that if this happened, could happen more often. And I think we really need to make some kind of stance to say we're not happy with this. You're not going to be allowed to just change your mind and leave it to that. So from that point of view, I'm minded to vote against this application. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Molyneux. I think with the new planning laws that are going to be coming in, we're going to be seeing more and more of this. Councillor Shaw.
Thank you, Chair. I thought since we're putting our cards on the table, I've listened to this. I share the views of those that are being expressed by the resident, by the members of the committee. But if we're going to get into an argument about whether we as a committee should have a particular standing or whether we leave all decisions to the inspector and we pick up the bill for it, I have a problem with that. I really don't like people messing about with our planning system, but I can't see that if this was presented and told to me right from scratch, and this was back in December committee when I wasn't able to attend, Gable's phone was on the agenda as well on that occasion. Looking at it at that stage, in the way the committee did, there has been a big change to the development or to the proposal. I would not like the addition of the windows, but if it's policy compliant, I can't see that I'm going to try and abdicate my responsibility and pass it to the inspector.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Shaw. Yeah, I mean, I find it a bit galling that we pass an application and then the developer comes back and says, we like your decision, but we want to add this to it and want to... I get that, but there's absolutely nothing we can do about it. And if the application is still policy compliant, as far as I'm concerned, my hands are tied behind me with that, because I don't want residents of this borough picking up a massive bill because this goes to appeal and we lose. I mean, but anyway, have we got any other proposals? Because we can't defer it. So you've had a proposal for refusal from Councillor Smith, seconded by Councillor Mrs Green, and then we've had... So we will take that vote first, I think. The refusal. Okay. On the electronic system.
Chair, could I just...
Catherine.
Sorry, could I just clarify? Because Councillor Smith used two reasons. He said overshadowing and overlooking. And Councillor Mrs Green said just overlooking and loss of privacy, and loss of amenity, which I think, if that's okay with you, Councillor Smith, I think that might be easier rather than using overshadowing.
Thanks for your point of clarity, Catherine. I'll remember that one next time. Okay, so we're going to the electronic vote. Refusal proposed by Councillor Smith, seconded by Councillor Mrs Green.
Thank you, Chair. So that proposal for refusal of the application has not, has basically not been determined. So we will now move to approval.
Okay, so now we're going to the amendment from Councillor Adams, seconded by Councillor Farnworth, for approval of this application.
Thank you, Chair. So committee have decided to allow the variation of condition to planning approval 07/2022-00692 REM to amend external elevations to relocate bedroom windows. Thank you.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, that concludes this evening's meeting. Thank you all for coming, and we will see you next month. I feel for you.